Cherie, if you have a question or something that I should ask, send me a text message or put it in the chat. I'll try to pay attention to the chat. Okay, it might be something that I don't think of. I'm open to other, like, as always. No. Do these new characters fumble with papers and stuff? I want to say we are live, you all. Good evening, everyone. This is Michelle again on another Tuesday evening at 6:30 with Doctors Fowler and Doctors Williams, Doctors of Chiropractic Care. And tonight we will be discussing stress and the nervous and endocrine system. I'm going to preface this show by just saying that you are going to probably hear me mispronounce some words. Those words will be.
That's okay. Right. We'll work it out. Yeah. Work it out. Don't worry about it at all.
Right. If you hear me just say, she said that she might mispronounce these words, and it's colloquies in doctor. Oh, see, there you go. It's endocrine. Yeah, so right.
So we will work through it. No worries. Yeah, right. No worries at all.
And it's all good. Right? Right, because we all
it's all good.
Okay, thank you. All right. So again, good evening. Thank you all for showing back up. This week we had two back-to-backs. I think they call those double headers when we meet back.
Yeah, double header. That's it. Right. Well, anything is possible during COVID. So you just got to work it out. You got to be versatile. You got to be versatile.
We have to be flexible. All right. So today we're gonna talk about stress in this COVID environment. There's a lot of stress going on. Do you all see a lot of people coming to your office dealing with stress issues in particular?
All the time. Stress is one of those things that is relative. Oh yeah. And the pandemic does not help. When you have folks that are stressing over their jobs, over catching the virus, not catching the virus, family, bills, roof over their head, food in the cabinets for the kids, so there are a lot of different types of situations that can cause stress. Right. Environment, we can talk about that as we get into the conversation. So stress is always a conversation that we have with our patients and how to mitigate and channel and process stress. So absolutely.
Yeah, and stress is a feeling, Stress is a feeling. It's an emotional and a physical feeling, basically. And, stress is the body's reaction to either a challenge or demand, just to kind of keep it a little simple.
Okay. And the good thing about this conversation that we have with our patients that many people don't realize that chiropractic can have a direct effect in decreasing the level of stress in the body, and we can talk about that specifically, right, and how exactly the chiropractic adjustment causes that or helps with that as we get into the conversation.
Mm-hmm. So there are different types of stress. We have physical stress. I know probably we all have been in a car accident. I just injured my arm a couple of weeks ago. That's stress on my body. Things are out of place. Dr.
Yes.
Is magic on it and it's healing.
That's right. That's right. We lay hands on that arm.
Right. And it's feeling better. But that's stress. It's physical stress. There's a physiological stress. There's mental stress. And all of that ties into chiropractic care. So what does it look like if someone comes in with a stress, with stress or physical stress? How do you all handle that and bring a person back to homeostasis? Last week I said it would bring us back to a state of zero, but found out through my studying that it's called homeostasis. How do y'all do that?
There you go. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. And I see that you've done your research.
That's right. That homeostasis is your set point. Wherever you are health-wise, whether you have good health or bad health, you are operating at a certain homeostasis or a set point. So that is right.
Okay. And again, the homeostasis is just what brings us, as we mentioned, back into balance. That is your body's natural happy place. That is the place by which it can operate and function optimally. And that's something that, whether, we're dealing with chiropractic or any other means of healthcare, that is the barometer in which to achieve.
Uh-oh. I can't hear you. Can you all hear each other?
From a mental standpoint, physiological, meaning the effect that stress has on our body's physiology, and then the physical, which is the physical form of stress that will also be affected. So it's the 3 P's. It's physical, it's physiological, and it's psychological. But the good thing is that when we administer the adjustment, the chiropractic adjustment to the patient, it's a 3-in-1. That one adjustment will positively affect each of those 3 P's. Whether it's freeing up any restrictions or misalignment in a bone or joint, whether it's physically reducing the stress factors within the body. We can talk about that a little more detail in a second. And then the physiological effect that adjustment has on the body.
Right. And again, it's about creating the proper environment for you to thrive, And again, if
You all are frozen. I'm not sure if you all.
Again, and the reason why I'm saying the spine is because every organ in your body, every cell in your body has a cell coming off the spine going to it. So that's why we as chiropractors are able to handle and take care of stress, because what we do is we take what God has given us, and that's move the bone or the adjustment that's wrapped around it to clear or to sanitize the system, the nervous system.
Wonderful. So I'm going to say that what's coming up on my screen is that Dr. Williams' bandwidth is low, and it seems like when that happens, that the screen stutters and I'm unable to hear you all when you're talking. So I might ask you something that you might have already said, so I apologize in advance for that.
Okay.
So an example of physical stress is like if someone is rear-ended in a car and their neck or their back, vertebrae in their back is impacted, that the pressure that happens to it, if it becomes pushed in, if it's misaligned, all of that is an example of physical stress. So for example, when I hurt my arm and my hand and my wrist, that was stress. It was because it was out of balance and it had to be put in place. And the thing about it was, when I saw you last week, when we talk about physical stress, you not only prepared my arm for an adjustment, but you also said, and I said to you, well, are you going to, you were like bringing me to the table. And I was like, well, are you about to do a full body adjustment? And you're like, yeah, I am. But what happened in there, as I was laying on my back, you were like, you have a rib out of place, and I knew my shoulder was hurting, but I thought it was all because I had an injury on my right arm. But I didn't know that, there was more going on with my body. And that last session I had with you was, I don't want to say the worst one, but it was like the most deep. Where you did a lot. Yeah, he really did a lot to my body. And I told him, I feel like I need to go to sleep.
Yeah. And that's, and again, that's why I love what we do, because we hear what you're saying when you come in the office. We hear whatever symptom that you're complaining about. But again, we know that nothing exists in your body alone. So that's why we always start with the spine, because everything starts with the central nervous system, and then we move out from there. So if your specific complaint is not dealing with the spine, we still start with the spine, because as you realize, that rib, had I not gone there, I would not have noticed or found that rib out of place.
Yeah.
And that rib being out of place actually was probably a greater contributor to your elbow hurting than the actual overuse injury that you were doing, the activity that you were doing. And so again, all of that is stress. It's physical stress. There's a chemical component involved with that, all of that. And so, yes, ma'am, that's why, again, as chiropractors, we're able to give you a better quality of life because, again, we're clearing the nervous system. And the nervous system is not just in the center where your spine is. That's the central nervous system. But we have the peripheral nerves, which, again, came into play when I started adjusting your elbow and all that.
Right.
So, in that same conversation, the body is like a chain, right? And the body systems operate as a chain. And the chain in and of itself is only as strong as the weakest link. So when Dr. Fowler mentioned, adjusting your misaligned rib, that matters because, again, as we're talking about the nervous system and we're talking about all of these other systems, the endocrine systems and others like it, when we're dealing with nerves, the central nervous systems, we have nerves that originate there and they travel via a nerve path.
I can't hear you. If you all can hear me, I can't.
Okay, now we hear you. Sorry, we lost you there for a second.
Yeah, you all were frozen. So we talked about physical stress. Now we mentioned the impact that physical stress has on the physiology of our body. Can you explain exactly what that is and its impact short-term as well as long-term stress? Because we know that stress, when it's short-term, which doesn't last long, has a particular impact. That stress that lingers in our body for an extended period of time and isn't addressed has another effect. Can you kind of talk about the correlation and the difference between the two?
Absolutely. So, from a physical standpoint, it's all about function. And your body is either going to operate in one or two areas, either function or dysfunction. Okay. So when your body is operating in a state of dysfunction, it doesn't mean that it's going to collapse and break down like that. But it does mean that over time, that dysfunction is going to compound itself. Your body's processes will, they will still operate. They just won't operate as efficiently. You may still be able to move and do the things that you do, but you may not be able to do them as quickly or as efficiently. So over time, it is a cascading, a snowballing effect that if you don't address these issues, over time, they will compound until eventually it gets to the point to where, your body just stops functioning. We liken it to a term we use in the field called micro trauma, meaning that little small traumas over time lead to bigger trauma. So it's not always the big trauma that debilitates us, but it can and is usually in most cases these smaller traumas that accumulate over time that end up debilitating us.
Yeah, I like to make the analogy when I'm in the office of our body being similar to a car in that effect. And that is, we have all these different systems in the car. You have, you need to put the antifreeze in the car, the transmission fluid, the oil, all that. If you operate that car with all of those fluids being at a lower amount or level, the car will run. It's going to run. But remember, that car is running at 100 miles an hour all the time. As soon as you crank it up, it's running at full speed. That's how we are. When we're running at 100 miles an hour all the time, our heart is pumping all the time. But back to the car, if you run that car for a while with those lower levels, eventually, as Doc said, you're going to create some micro traumas. And then different things start happening, like the car will maybe overheat, or maybe the pistons, because they're not getting enough oil, the viscosity, builds up, and now you've blown a head or something like that. So we are exactly like that. If there is a misalignment somewhere in the body, not just the spine, somewhere in the body, that means that there's not enough nerve communication as well as potentially blood flow going to some area. And so if that area is running at 100%, but not getting the proper information, eventually that area, wherever it is, will break down.
I love that. I love the analogy of comparing our bodies to cars. And so with that, so I'm seeing in my head, so if we're experiencing a lot of stress and small things, but then it starts to progress and it lingers over time, how it can impact us mentally, how it can impact us physically. So even just from the mental part, if it lingers over time, it can, and if you can expound on that, impact us physically, but then it'll manifest itself in an issue. So that goes into our glands. So let's go into our endocrine system. How can prolonged periods of stress impact our endocrine system?
Okay, well, I'll use a specific example. One of the major stress hormones in the body is called cortisol. And when we're experiencing periods of high stress, for whatever reason, our bodies are emitting continuously this cortisol hormones. Well, what happens over time is when you have high level of cortisol, in the body, it can lead to increased heart rate. It can lead to increased levels of anxiety. It can put added stress and strain on, organs within the body. It can leave you in a very heightened state, if you will. We have a subsidiary of the nervous system in the body that's called the sympathetic nervous system. And it's known as the fight or flight response. Say, for instance, I use a rather funny analogy. Say I point a gun to your face right now. Your body is going to go into a state of shock, right? Your pupils are going to dilate. You're going to freeze in place. You're going to become very anxious. Your heart rate is going to increase rapidly. You may even urinate on yourself. That happens, but I don't be all of that to be gross in any way, but I say all of that to say that is the sympathetic nervous system kicking in at that moment. And at that moment, it is pumping a large dose of cortisol into your body. And what that cortisol does is it allows you to have those increased heightened senses so that you may escape or flee that type of situation. But what happens with us and that cortisol ends up having a physiological effect on our bodies. Like I said, it causes strain to the heart. It causes constriction of blood vessels. As Dr. Fowler just mentioned, our organs and muscles and parts of our body need adequate blood flow. But if we're constricting that blood flow, that's a bad thing rather than a good thing. So there's many different things that, as I mentioned, can result in increased cortisol levels, lack of proper rest, okay, lack of exercise. That are causing a constant high level of cortisol in our bodies. So again, it's a lot of different things that will again end up wreaking havoc on our physiology. But remember, like I said, it's the 3 P's. So these
and just make sure that people caught that. And that is biochemical stress, which is the stress that we actually put upon ourselves by what we put in our bodies. So the preservatives, as Doc said, the fast foods, the fried foods, there are a lot of other, for example, dairy products can cause stress or inflammation, in the body, which causes stress. And so I just wanted to make sure that, that is another stress, because as you said earlier, Ms. Simmons, that there are many different types of stress, and biochemical is just another one of those stressors that we actually can have some control over.
Right. And so it made me think, we talk about like maybe the oil running low in the vehicle. You can put the oil back in and fill it back up to where it's supposed to be, but the damage has already been done. The engine is already messed up. When the engine messes up, other things are impacted in that vehicle, and then those parts need to be replaced. So what I'm hearing is how, if your stress levels are out of balance, if we are out of balance as people, it affects our heart. That's where we have heart attacks, where we have strokes, where we have high blood pressure, and it's hard to reverse it. In certain situations, it can be reversed, but in others, depending on how negatively it's impacted our bodies, it can be non-reversible, and it can lead us to a breakdown and or death in our bodies if we don't catch it. Yeah.
Right.
Did we? I don't think that we did. Did we really explain what the endocrine system is? I kind of just skipped and jumped into it.
We just kind of jumped into it.
Explain what the endocrine system is.
So the endocrine system is basically a messenger system to the body. All right. Two of the major glands of the endocrine system is the thyroid gland and the adrenal gland. The thyroid gland, for example, helps to deal with digestion, deals with the metabolism. Another gland within the endocrine system is the thymus. Some of these words people may have to be familiar with, but the thymus, for example, it helps to produce like the white blood cells, which again kind of goes back to what you were just talking about just a minute ago. When you have a stress, and even if you try to correct the levels, let's just say, of the nerves or the blood, and it has been lacking, that's the same thing. If the thymus has been stressed for a while, and you're not producing white blood cells, again, we all know in this current state that we're in, we're talking about COVID and all this and that. But COVID is just one thing. There are many, many other things that can jump on you if you don't have your army, the white blood cells, working. And so basically the endocrine system is a messenger system that secretes hormones into the blood system. So it's a systemic system that goes throughout the body to help the organs and the cells of the body to do what they do.
Question, since you mentioned hormones, so our hormones can be imbalanced, and as we age, the hormone levels shift. How do you as chiropractors address, or do you address hormonal imbalance in women and in men? Do you see it? Because I think more so when we talk about hormonal imbalance, it's in reference to women and not men. So can you tell me if you have patients that come in for you all to address those issues?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's equally as important in men as it is in women. Right. Because again, if those hormones are out of balance, that means your physiology is out of balance. And like I mentioned before, the other two P's out of that 3P cycle are then out of balance. So the chiropractic adjustment in and of itself is a exactly how that chiropractic adjustment aids in achieving that homeostasis. So one of the things, and this has been researched, one of the things that the chiropractic adjustment does is it helps to produce endorphins or release endorphins into the body. Mm-hmm. For those who don't know, the endorphins are our pleasure hormones, the happy hormone. Okay. So a lot of times when we adjust patients, they will actively tell us they feel an immediate release or an immediate relief. Okay. So part of that is because not only are we eliminating that dysfunction within the joint, but there is also the release of those endorphins, which is more so on the physiological side of things, but then also has a psychological effect and thereby a physical effect. So that's just one of the ways that the chiropractic adjustment, helps from the hormonal standpoint, is it helps to give that body that needed rush of those endorphins so that body can get back to balance. Right.
I want to say in 2010, I know that was 10 years ago, and I know our stress levels have gone up, especially with COVID. Mm-hmm. Americans were noted to spend over $8 billion in stress-related products. Mm. So it's a money making for people to be in a particular state, mentally, physically, all of that. Because at the end of the day, and we're experiencing that in the midst of COVID, where we're actually seeing money being put over people. Mm-hmm. And so when it comes to prescribing medications, just dealing with the symptoms. I'm gonna deal with the surface and not deal with the root. But to be able to get to the root of it, so we don't have to deal with that. But I think in certain ways, trying to be politically correct over here.
Go ahead. Be correct.
$8 billion in stress-related products. So livelihood, in a lot of ways, is put over our actual our health concerns and needs to keep us in a particular space. Because
and unfortunately, a lot of our environment and our lifestyle, renders moot.
Yes.
The benefits of a lot of these stress reducing and stress eliminating things that we're spending all this money on. Mm-hmm. And again, it goes back to the conversation about environment.
Right.
And when it comes to the human body, what we put in it is what we get out of it. Right. Whether that's for good or for bad. But especially in the information age that we're in, with the advancement of technology, smartphones, things like that, we are constantly stimulating our minds and our bodies. And our bodies need rest, right? Mm-hmm. At some point, our body needs to rest, because that is the only point that our bodies are able to rehabilitate and heal, right? And repair. But if we're not allowing our bodies to rest, we're not giving our bodies, our brains and things, the ability to go dormant, then, we're constantly stimulating, we're constantly dumping those stress hormones into our bodies, and our bodies are leave the confines of our home. So, things like artificial light, going back to, poor diet and things that we're eating. So, we got to get back to doing the things that our body needs, going out and getting fresh air while practicing social distancing.
Right.
But, getting some sunlight, vitamin D, turning off the lights in the house, just allowing your body a chance to turning the TV off. We're sitting in the bed, at night, and we say that we're going to sleep, right? But we got the remote control in one hand, we got the TV going, we got the cell phone in the other hand, we got a light on over here, things of that nature. So we've got to do the things that our body needs in order to do the things that we need it to do.
Right. And a lot of times, just going back to what Doc was just saying about the TV and the cell phone and all that, we're in the bed, supposed to be watching that, and that stuff winds up watching us.
Right.
But but it's not but it's not just watching us, it's putting stuff into us, the electromagnetic waves. Again, this is just a quick little sidebar. A lot of us, the mattresses that we sleep on have those springs in it, and so these springs are actually can exponentially grow the power of those electromagnetic waves when it's going through your body. So you think about it, you're laying across your entire body. Yeah. And so you have the TV on it and the phone right next to your bed and all that kind of stuff. And again, we are hindering our quality of life. And so what I like to say is that we have to stop. One of the issues that mainstream medical does or has done, it has brainwashed us in general to think that the doctor, he or she, all thing we have to do is just go and listen and whatever they say do, we do it, but we continue to do the things that we're doing that adversely affects us, that got us into the office in the first place. And so again, that is being a sideline player to your work, or you have to take so many doses of it or so much of it until now it starts affecting other organs and all that, and we can get into all that kind of side effect kind of stuff too.
Or, in some cases your body develops a tolerance, and then the medicines that the doctor is prescribing are not even effective.
Mm-hmm. That's good. The volume has been going in and out, and I'm like, he's getting to some good stuff. I need to hear this. My prayer is
we're trying to talk a little bit louder.
Yeah.
It's not even that. It's just that the bandwidth, and it just kind of literally.
Yeah, and apologies on the bandwidth. I'm not sure what's going on. I don't know if there's an issue with the internet in the building, but we'll make sure to rectify that. For next time.
Thank you all. I just want to say this. If anyone has a question, if anyone's watching, I do have one question I am going to ask. But if anyone has a question, you can put it in the comments and we'll take a look at it and answer your question. So let's talk about, we're talking about stress, we're talking about the nervous system, we're talking about the endocrine system. Nervous disorders. Do people come specifically to you to address nervous disorders like multiple sclerosis, epilepsy, or anything like that? Can you kind of talk about that? Because a lot of people don't know that, I'm dealing with epilepsy, I'm dealing with Alzheimer's, MS, and don't understand how a chiropractor can assist them with that.
Can you hear?
Now I can. Hello. Dr. Williams, Dr. Fowler, can you hear me?
All right.
Okay. We hear you. Right. We hear you. Now we hear you.
Can you hear us?
Yes.
All right. So can you go back through that last little bit, because we missed all of that.
So you mentioned about nervous disorders like epilepsy and multiple sclerosis and
multiple
things like
sclerosis.
that.
Yeah, I was just asking if patients come to you specifically with those type of nervous disorders, and if so, how you treat them.
Absolutely. So again, chiropractic, the roadmap for chiropractic does not change, right? Because first and foremost, as chiropractors, we operate with our hands, the root word chiro meaning by hand, right? But the human body does not change. We're 99.9% identical, right? And it, for us as chiropractors, it begins and ends with the nervous system. So obviously, if we're talking nervous disorders, we're going to begin with the nervous system. And obviously, when we're talking about these types of nervous disorders, MS, epilepsy, things like that. There's some other underlying issues going on. MS in particular is an autoimmune type disease, which means that the body is kind of, attacking itself in a way, fighting itself, if you will. But again, our goal as chiropractors is to ensure that your nervous system is functioning properly. If your nervous system is the nervous system from being able to fight against many of these types of diseases. So to answer your question, we treat many MS patients, and many of them, tell us instantly that, they're less symptomatic, they're having less acute flare-ups, they're able to go about their day a lot better, they're not having as many aches and pains, nerve pains and things like that have diminished. So, there is a proven benefit to chiropractic when it comes to nerve disorders, because we deal with the nervous system directly. Yes.
Wonderful. As chiropractors, what are the top 3 things that you recommend your patients do to look after their chiropractic health overall?
Top 3?
Well, we say 4.
Yeah, I was about to say we say 4. We got 4.
Okay.
So of course, the first thing would be proper chiropractic care, proper rest, proper nutrition, and proper exercise.
Okay.
If you get those 4 things down, and I mean, make it a part of your life, make it a part of your wellness regimen, you will be ahead of the game when it comes to making sure that your body is operating at an optimal point, homeostasis, all that, at a good set point.
Gotcha.
Good.
Yeah, and each of those are equally important. It's not just, pick 1 or 2 out of those. You want to incorporate all of those into your daily regimen. And again, it's not something that you need to do temporarily. No. But it is about maintaining optimal health and an optimal lifestyle. So that's something that you need to not just work on for the next couple of weeks or the next couple of months or as a New Year's resolution, right? But it's something that you need to be working on 365 days out of every year. Because again, this is our body, right? And this is the only body that we're going to have as we're walking this earth. So we have to do anything and everything possible to ensure that our one and only body does for us what it needs to do, and we can get, we can have a quality of life, and we can have longevity. It's not just about adding years to life. As a society, we've gotten good at that. We can add years to life. With drug surgery, your radiation, anything, those things will add years to life. But more importantly, or just as importantly, we want to make sure that we're adding life to our years. Quality of life. Quality of life is key. We don't want to add 10, 20, 30 years to life, to be bedridden for or not being able to, live a happy and successful life for the majority of that time. Right.
That's good. That's real good. It all goes back to our nutrition, adequate nutrition, proper rest, water, exercise, clean air.
Right. And so it's a sum total. It's a sum total of all that.
Yeah.
It's a sum total of all.
Yeah. All of those things working together.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And chiropractic helps to kind of jumpstart that process.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, and basically,
optimal performance. The chiropractic piece is important because it's ensuring that our body's foundation, which is our nervous system, is operating properly. Right.
Wonderful. And then the amount of time or the number of visits and how often we go depends on our own individual situation.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And I'm glad you mentioned that because some people have a misconception that, oh, it's a cookie cutter
right.
type plan or anything like that. You know, and Dr. Fowler and I, we pride ourselves in formulating a treatment plan for each individual patient.
Yeah.
And what I may formulate or prescribe to you will be different and should be different than the next patient, because if they are identical, that's a problem. So it's about looking at the patient individually, holistically,
Right.
you know, taking a proper health history to see what, you know, ailments you may have going on, what your family history or your health history may be, any injuries, traumas, you know, lifestyle, environment. You know, we want to take a comprehensive look at all of that. And then from that, with that information, you know, in mind, you know, we're going to tailor a specific treatment plan just for you.
And again, tailoring it just for you, again, I like that about the family. The plan that we have for the wife should be different from the plan that we have for the husband, which should be different from the plan that we have for the children. Again, when we say no cookie cutter, that's exactly what we mean. Now, just because you live in the same household does not mean that your plan will be the same across the board.
So generally people assume, and we, you know, if we go to a chiropractor, it's because, oh, my neck is hurting, my back, you know, is hurting. But you don't necessarily have to be in pain to see a chiropractor. So
No.
How do we encourage, you know, people to come in and just get checked out? You know, if I don't have any pain, so I don't need to go see a chiropractor. What would you say to them?
Right. Well, again, it's about the environment. We go back to the environment, but it's also about maintenance. All right. Again, I go back to the cars. We will take our cars to the shop for oil changes when they need it. We will take our cars to the shop for tune-ups. And see, the thing is, a lot of what we have done in this society is we have just gotten used to operating at whatever level that we get used to operating. If it's a pain level, we just get used to operating in that. Right. And so, if it's a sluggish level, we get used to operating in that. If it's a brain fog level, we get used to operating. And so, again, what we talk about now is maintenance, all right? And
the definition of health.
And right, the definition of health. Again, and I'll just say that according to the WHO, World Health Organization, health is not merely the absence of disease or infirmity, but it is a complete mental, physical, and social well-being of a person. And so to encourage people to come in, again, what I would say is as I say, you want to sanitize your spine.
Absolutely. And one of the things, and for example, myself, I went to the dentist this morning, right? I didn't go to the dentist because I had a toothache or because, you know, I had an ailment. I went for a general checkup, a general cleaning, maintenance, right? Yeah. Because I want to keep my teeth. I don't want to be walking around with a yuck mouth in 5 years, right? So I want my teeth to maintain, you know, their beautiful luster, and I want them to last, right? So it's no different with chiropractic. You know, we're just another specialty, you know, where it's not just about the absence or presence of pain, but it's about proper function and well-being, right? And that's something that is, you know, it has to be, you know, constantly maintained. Like I said, 365 days out of the year, not just when you have an ailment here or you got this going on, you got that going on. Because in some cases, once the pain arises, you know, you may already be too late at that point, you know, depending on what may be the cause of that pain. But one thing I will mention just as a side note, you know, with American society, we've gotten to the point to where we have confused healthcare with sick care. Okay. Typically what we have, what you see in this country is a sick care system. And I was enlightened to this back in college. I told myself, you know what? I'm going to go to the doctor and get a checkup. Just because I had nothing going on. I was like, you know what? I need to go get a checkup. And when the doctor came in, he's, asking me all these questions, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, no, I don't have anything going on. He's like, well, why are you here? You don't need to be here. Right? So again, he's like, well, if you've got no symptoms, why are you here? So that kind of turned the light bulb on. It's like, well, if you're not sick, you shouldn't go to the doctor, right?
Right.
So it's not just about, sickness, it's about health.
Yeah.
How do you achieve health? So, we as chiropractors, we focus on health, not just identifying signs or symptoms, but about achieving pure and total health.
Yes.
That's real good. That's the mindset that we have cultivated here in this society. That we don't go to a doctor unless we're in pain or unless we're sick. We don't go to like you say, to maintain our health. We go because something's wrong. And like you said, by the time we figure out what's wrong, the cancer's at stage 4 or stage 3 or whatever it is, it's progressed. And it's hard to address again. So that's real good. Have you had go ahead.
No, I was just going to the one last thing I say, just kind of on us men folk, we are real bad at this, and that is going to the doctor. A lot of times we like to wait until Jesus or Moses or somebody sitting at the edge of the bed, then we want to go, but it's it could be too late at that point. And so I would definitely encourage our men, black men, it doesn't matter. You need to come in. You need to come in, whether it be to see us but to get yourself checked for sure.
Absolutely. We're all, and Dr. Fowler and I are no different. We all deal with dysfunction here and there. It could be your job. Many of us are working very, labor intensive jobs. It could be, you may have been going to the gym and put a muscle, or you may have been, moving, furniture or doing some chores around the house. There's a lot of different things that can cause dysfunction. All right. There's a statistic that says 85% of the human population will experience low back pain before they die. That's 80. So that is. And in allowing us to prevent a lot of these ailments from happening in the first place, but it is also one of the leading complementary alternative medicine approaches when it comes to dealing with a lot of these ailments that may arise.
You brought up a couple of things I want to talk about. When you mentioned lower back pain, I was with one of my sister friends a couple of weeks ago, and she said, my lower back is hurting. And it sounded like it just happened out of the blue for her. And I didn't realize that it doesn't necessarily have to be because you sat, on your bottom too long or you didn't stretch. That lower back pain could also be because of low vitamin D, for example. And so the thing is going to the right place, or someone that can walk you through all of those different options to figure out exactly what the root is, as opposed to, I'm gonna check you out and take some Advil and and not get to, no, there's a vitamin D deficiency. You need to, what I'm saying? How do you figure that out, and get to the root as opposed to treatment of the symptoms? Because we don't, as consumers and as patients, we don't know what we need. We just know that I'm hurt, and I'm gonna tell you what my symptoms are, and I want you to help try to figure that out. How do you have a suggestion on how a patient can go about seeking the proper help for their ailments?
Well, I'll just go back to, again, every organ in your body, every cell in your body has a nerve coming off the spine. As chiropractors, we are trained to know that a specific area within the spine, a nerve is coming off there going somewhere. So let's go back to the low back issue. Yeah, you're having pain in your low back, but what other organs are potentially being affected? Because if you're having pain, potentially that means that you have a misalignment going on in your spine. Again, we as chiropractors, we correct misalignments. Again, that clears the nervous system. And so one of the issues that can be apparent or not, when you're having low back pain, or it could be just stiffness in your low back, it could be a reproductive issue. It could be a digestive issue, because the lumbar area, the low back, has nerve that goes directly to the digestive system as well as the reproductive system. So again, we're known as back doctors because I put the spine down our back. Again, the idea to put it down our arm, moving on our arm. And so you, as a person that is in your body, that's key to being in tune. Because we get used to just going with the flow, so to speak. You need to, again, as I say, come outside, like get into the game and know that pain or discomfort somewhere doesn't mean pain or a bigger detriment somewhere else.
And also to Dr. Fowler's point, when we're, having, especially with our new consultations with our patients, having talks about diet, nutrition, or any type of health supplementary medication that may lead to, things like vitamin D deficiency, or, if you're not taking multivitamins, so, we may look for different signs that may have deficiencies in certain areas. We may look at, your x-rays and look for, signs of demineralization of the bone or osteoporosis, osteopenia, things like that. So then, if you identify those things, they're having conversations, about, any family history, or, medications, supplements, nutrition, things like that.
Again, it's all in chiropractic care, proper rest, proper nutrition, proper exercise.
Question. Have you had a situation, or are you aware of a situation where a patient was surprised?
Can you hear us?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Dr. Stone? Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you a little bit now. Can you hear me now? Dr. Fowler and Williams, can you hear me? You said, can you hear me?
Yes.
A little bit. Can you hear me? I would ask you for a thumbs up, but I can't see your picture. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
If you can hear me, I wanted to know, have you had a situation where you had a patient that was surprised because they were referred to a chiropractor? I'm not sure if you all can hear me or not. Dr. Williams and Fowler, can you hear me?
Yes, hear me now.
Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you repeat yourself, please?
I was asking if you had a situation where a patient was surprised that you were referred to a chiropractor as opposed to a regular like primary care physician or specialist in another area.
Yeah, for sure. Like for example, we also take care of pregnant women, and so I had a patient not long ago who actually referred to me about her OB because she was having such hip pain, and you know, as when women become pregnant, there's a hormone that releases called relaxin. What it does is it relaxes every joint in the body because it is preparing the body, especially the header, to receive the baby during birth. And
I can't hear you all. Dr. Williams and Fowler.
And all that. And so when we performed the adjustment, she definitely felt relief.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
No.
We apologize for connectivity issues on our end. Can you hear us now?
A little bit, you know, it's in and out,
Okay.
but it is, we are wrapping everything up. I just wanted to close with, kind of going over. I did have a question on the type of exercises that, do you have like general exercises that you recommend to all people, or are those based on the actual individual as well? That's what I'm thinking the answer to that question is, but I just want to ask it because it was asked.
Well, typically the exercise that we prescribe would be on a case-by-case basis, specific to the patient, but in general, any type of core strengthening exercise is always good because core strength is going to help you support the spine, the spinal canal, and the overall structure, the torso structure. So any type of core strengthening exercise is always recommended. When we, see you in our office and we go through your consultation, examination, take a look at your X-rays and your things of that nature, we prescribe specific exercises tailored to your needs.
Right.
Okay. Well, thank you all so much for coming again today. I just want to kind of close out and summarize that today we talked about chiropractic care, stress, the nervous and endocrine system. We talked about how basically the endocrine system, we talked about two specific glands, the thalamus, hypothalamus, and the adrenal glands, and how the endocrine system deals with hormones and the relationship that the nervous system has with the endocrine system. We also talked about how chiropractic care helps to mitigate, harm, and soothe those particular issues, amongst others. We answered some questions that were sent to us today. And I just want to thank you all for being here. Do you all have anything you want to say in closing?
Yeah, so again, we will apologize.
I think you all are still talking. I can't see you all. So what I'm going to do is close out. Our next episode is going to be,
.com. Again, and that's www.yourfinespine.com.
Yes. So as we always say, if you want to be fine, take care of your spine. I'm going to exercise your spine.
Thank you so much. Again, our next episode will be December 15th, where we will talk about cancer in the lymphatic system. And that will be December 15th at 6:30. Thank you so much, Dr. Dr. Fowler and Dr. Williams. You all have a great night.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna